If you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. With that being said, hello everyone. Welcome back to another video. My name is Matthew, and today we're taking another mass line review. Today we're taking another review set of my Godzilla vs. Kong from 2021 figures from Playmates. Now, I need to stress again, much like the last few reviews, is that this is not the entire collection. This is my own personal collection, the ones that I have. I don't have things like the giant MechaGodzilla. I don't have the Hong Kong battle variants, and I didn't really bother to pick up like the various battle sets of like Godzilla vs. Kong and things like the Antarctic Kong and the Godzilla Supercharged or Extreme, as he was originally called on the back of the box of one of the figures. But I did get all of these ones, which are like kind of like the more common ones, because let's be honest, distribution was kind of a pain for me for a little while, especially because like for a little bit, none of my shelves or my local Walmarts were actually picking these things up for some reason. I guess Playmates just didn't stock them correctly or didn't make as much of them, which is weird because they're supposed to be a mass production company, but whatever. These are the ones I managed to snag over the years, past 3 years as a matter of fact. And we're going to be primarily looking at these ones. So with that being said, yeah, just I guess sit back and relax and let's talk about some Godzilla vs. Kong toys. So for starters, we're going to take a look at the Godzilla with Heat Ray. The pretty much the standard 6-inch variety. And as you can see, he's definitely stood, I wouldn't really say stood the test of time, but he's definitely at least up there as far as like the Playmates quality is concerned. And funny enough, I actually have two of them with me. If you're wondering why I have two of them, it's because I bought this one originally. Well, actually, my mom bought that originally, and I bought this one off a secondhand site from a lot. So, as you can see, they're definitely, well, quality wise, I actually kind of prefer this one over this one just because like the application is a bit better on this one. But maybe this one's just a later release. So let's talk about this one. So for the overall mold, it's a very simplified mold. Like for Playmates' first crack at a MonsterVerse Godzilla, they could have done way worse. The head is actually molded pretty decently well, having a much more softer plastic compared to the much more harder build of the plastic that's used throughout the body. And even though the eye placements definitely like this time around were definitely very crappy. Like look at this. This one's all the way up. This one's all the way down. And then we bring in this one which has more roughly consistent eyes. That one's a little bit low. That one's a little bit high. We can at least tell that this is way better than this. Oh man. I even saw some that were like back here, then up there, then up like all the way here. Yeah, the inconsistency of Playmates was kind of like something that's pretty jarring, but whatever. The details are still mainly like confined to this. When you get to like the nostril, which mold wise barely exists. I'm making out like one slit of a line right here, like at the tip of my finger. Can't really see that, but it's not the seam line. It's like right below the seam line. Another thing I also would like to point out is the teeth. They're just basic white strips, which, hey, does the job. I've had white strips on my figures before. And it also has some nice paint on the tongue and the kind of like the mouth gum area. Freaking trying to get this thing to focus. But however, you can kind of see it's a bit scuffed because we'll talk about it in like the heat ray section. But like when you peg it in, it actually kind of rubs in and then you start taking it out and in and out and in. I'm gonna let the adult audience think about that for just a sec. You can just kind of see how it just kind of grinds up against the paint over time, and I guess I didn't really take into account, so that's why I don't really put the beam inside this guy's mouth. But yeah, back to this one. What I do like, however, is that throughout the entirety of the figure, well, at least the majority of it, is that there's this subtle blue wash. For anyone that owns the NECA 1954 Godzilla, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And it's actually throughout the entire figure where it brings out some more of the details from the more shallow parts of the figure, like the more harder plastic regions, and even like the more detailed figures, part of the figures, like the arms, for example, definitely has a lot more that can find detail, and actually has some nice claw paint too, which is a bit more of like a darker brown. It's because of like the color contrast with the darker color, it's not as noticeable to see on first glance, but you can definitely see it once you get to like things like the feet, where mine's a bit scuffed, but this one's in relatively better shape. This is why I plan to keep it that way. And as you can kind of see, the like the molding here on the tail was never really the best. Like that was honestly my main complaint, was the fact that they like smoothened out the detail here where it gets to here, and also the pre-posed legs. Take it or leave it. I feel like this leg could have been done a little bit better because it's just kind of straightforward, while this one's a bit more rested. And then we kind of get to the dorsal plates, which are, well, we'll talk about the translucent plates in a bit, but the tail is fully sculpted and at an angle, so it's like straightforward, curves in, and then curls back in, almost like, kind of like what they did with the old Bandai figures? Question mark? Yeah, like a literal question mark. And something like Bandai is that they sprayed this section of the tail, but neglected to paint the rest of it. Yeah. And the dorsal plates, oh, good grief, these things are beautiful. I sound sarcastic, but no, these things are actually really cool. I love the translucency on these things, and I can see why Playmates wanted to use these for a while with like different versions. Like they did it with this one, and then they did it with the was it like one of the battle box variants, and then they did it with the battle roar, as crappy as the figure that is, and then they did it with the Hong Kong battle version. Like this is actually really cool, and even like the new Energized Godzilla, which I actually got to see in person a few days ago, but I didn't get it, but I plan to. But yeah, pretty much molded exactly like how it is in the film. Little mellow on the detail work, but it's alright. Very gummy plastic, bumping my camera, but it's still very flexible and very durable. No paint up here, sadly, but as far as like the sheer paint, it's actually got one more surprise, and you're going to actually notice the theme with these, is that the original GVK figures had battle damage, like little scabs you could peel off, almost like a bloody wound. I mean, that's essentially what this is. And you can definitely see like the rib cages, which are all painted red. It's not like the best sculpting in the world, especially because like anatomically this doesn't make sense and it's not really accurate, because we do see Godzilla's bones when he gets kneed by MechaGodzilla pinned up against the building in the final climax. It doesn't really look like this, but whatever. A $10 figure's accuracy be damned. That's essentially it as far as like the sheer amount of sculpted paint. Now onto articulation. Jaws on a hinge, so we can open about that far, close up about that far. Even though the commercial does show Godzilla's head turning, and you can kind of get a little twist and turn, do not turn the head. And I've said it time and time again, and I'll continue to say it. That seam line, see that? That's starting to split the line. Yeah, basically the head is plugged into the neck on a square peg, so you're just gonna get that whole thing right off. Shoulders, we can go pretty much, I don't want to say a full 360, but close to it. Like they're at a neutral stance to where they can kind of get to there. This leg can go up about that far, backwards about that far. The feet cannot rotate, much like the head can't, because again, you're just gonna split off the plastic and go on a big square peg. And this one can go up about, oh crud, just about bumping this guy over. Kick up about that far, kick backwards about that far, and no rotation here at the foot, but we do have a nice big meaty ball joint here at the tail, so we can go left about that far, right about that far, up about that far, down about that far, and can pretty much swivel and do all those things a ball joint can. And as for accessories, which you already saw it, we have a heat ray that plugs into the mouth, and it's actually borrowing the mold from the SH Monster Arts Godzilla 2014 Spitfire version. And how I know this is that I took a picture of both beams laying vertically, and I compared the kind of like the flame notches, and they're practically an exact match. Now, granted, the Monster Arts one is significantly longer, but there was some retooled with this one. So, yeah. It had to have been some form of like retooling with that one. So, as far as like the Heat Ray Godzilla, I would say that this is honestly definitely a winner, at least in my book.